Guys, it's not your fault. A lot of the reason why you're not as successful as you want to be is because of your environment. In today's episode, we've got the most incredible wealth expert, psychology expert, Craig Richards here. Craig, welcome to the podcast. He's going to share with you how he went from a 7th grade education to a man who has multiple businesses living his dream life, and how anyone can also do the same. So guys, get ready, stay tuned. Let's go. Hi, everybody. This is Louis here, and I'm so excited today for the Modern Wealth Podcast to bring in one of my close mentors, one of my coaches, and a good friend, Craig Richards. Craig, wave to the camera. And Craig is here to teach you the biggest part of success, which is the mindset, the psychology. We all know that when it comes to wealth, when it comes to building wealth, being a resourceful state, 20% is the mechanics, but the other 80% is the psychology. And we're lucky to have Craig here because Craig has spent the last 29 years with some of the top coaches in the world. Anthony Robbins, you're one of the top 5 guys who've been around him. You've coached hundreds of thousands of people and take where they're at in an unresourceful state to a more powerful, resourceful state. And most importantly, what I love is I love how beautiful and blessed your family. You've been married for how many years now?
22 years.
22 years. You have 4 lovely kids. So Craig, why don't you just share a little bit about your background? Because you started as a house painter many years ago, and now you're a multimillionaire, multiple businesses, living on a private island, your dream life. Just share a little bit to our audience about yourself.
That's right, Louis. Thank you, buddy. And, that's why I'm here, actually. I'm very grateful because, I used to be a 7th grade educated house painter, and I saw other people who were very successful and wealthy, and I thought, well, how can I have that? I have 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head too. So then I totally immersed myself in psychologies and tools, many teachers, Tony Robbins being one of them. And eventually went to work for Tony for 28 years, being trained by him for 8 of those years personally. And I'm very grateful to have that because what it did was it reshaped my psychology, my beliefs, my values, and my rules. And then as a result of reshaping that, then I pretty much commanded my life. I wasn't a victim anymore. I commanded my life and I said, okay, this is what I want. And I wrote down I would live on a beautiful island, have the most amazing wife, kids. I want to have time to enjoy them. I want to have multiple companies that bring me income so that I don't have to work all the time. And I wrote all that down and, that's where I live today. I live in Phuket, kid from New Jersey, brought up in Trenton, New Jersey in the city. Now I live in Phuket, Thailand on the beach. And guess what I get to do in the morning when I wake up?
What?
I watch the sunrise out of the ocean in the morning. I open up my shades. Of course, my wife hollers at me all the time. She says, can you shut that? It's too bright. I want to sleep some more. But, for me, that was my dream. And to find my wife, it was like, maybe someday I'll get to share the story, but I met my wife. I dated her for 4 days. While I dated her, because I knew my beliefs, my values, my rules, and I knew what kind of woman I wanted. I mapped all that out. I proposed to her on the 4th day. We were married on the 7th day. Now we have 4 children. So if you ever want to know that story, listen up some more. One day I'll get to share that for you. But my dreams have come true. I have multiple income streams, multiple companies that bring me income. So now I kind of like semi-retired right now. I get to enjoy life and enjoy my family, enjoy my boating, and my friends. And so that's why I'm here. I'm very grateful. I want to, and anyone. I have a private coaching. I do tour business. I mean, there's, Airbnbs. I have long-term rentals, and it's just magical what you can do when you step into your power and you command what you want instead of being a victim. So I'm very grateful. And that's why now I would just pay it forward. In my coaching business, I've gone through all that, so I help other people. So it just really juices me to be able to, because I've gone through a lot, and it gives me the ability, to be able to help other people now. I can pick it right out on them and help them, and then I watch them shift, and that's what brings me joy.
Craig, how would you define success in today's modern world?
Well, in today's modern world, I think that most people define sex, sex is good, right? No. They define success by wealth. and having lots of money and showing up with Prada and Gucci. But what we found is that a lot of people that are living that way are empty inside. Many times they're not happy, they're not fulfilled. And so I define success as somebody who can be happy, fulfilled, to the core, and also have wealth so that they can arrive in style.
In the last 29 years, you've helped hundreds of thousands of entrepreneurs, people from around the world transform their lives. What would you say are the top 2 or top 3 things that people can do now to take them from where they're at to where they want to be?
That's a great question. Well, I think that what happens is with so much change happening in the world today that people have a lot of uncertainty right now, and they have fear and worry. And I think that the number one thing that they can do is be grateful. That's the number one thing, because what happens is when we're focusing on fear and worry, then we're deleting all the good things that are going on, and it has an emotional effect on people. And so what I feel is that in order for people to be successful, they have to be grateful. And the first, what are you most happy about in your life today? Something. There's got to be something you're grateful for. A great day. Is you're above ground today, right? What else are you most happy about in your life today? I'm happy that I have a home. I'm happy that I have a wife. I'm happy. You can be grateful for many things. Your children. You have air to breathe. So put yourself in a state of happiness and gratefulness takes your mind off of fear and worry, and it just helps you to just have a phenomenal day and a phenomenal life.
What would you say are the 2 biggest things that people need to be aware of that contribute to them not succeeding?
The 2 biggest things
That contribute to them not succeeding. Because we talk about you got to be grateful, you got to have a positive attitude. But what are some things that you've seen? Again, you've coached hundreds of thousands of people just in the last few years alone. What would you say are 2 of the biggest things that people need to be aware of?
I think that people inside their heart, they know what to do, but they're not doing what they know. They're not taking action. And so I think, you and I've talked about this before, but action does trump knowledge, because knowledge is only potential power. So what happens is living present in the moment when you're grateful, and then you're taking action and moving your feet because you know what your outcome is. You have to know what your outcome is. And then there has to be a meaning behind it. I mean, because, having pieces of paper with deceased notables on it, or some live notables that, you can use to trade for something, you can arrive in style, but it doesn't bring you happiness. You have to have the balance, so I think that by understanding what your outcome, your meaning for, wanting to live that way, wanting to have those things in your life, and then by, totally focusing on just being in a peak state of gratitude, keeps you out of fear. So I think that that'll help you, help people take their lives to the next level.
Now, we have a huge audience out there that watch this each and every week. And a lot of them don't know your story because you actually manifested and created your entire life right now 30, 40 years ago. So will you mind sharing them kind of where you were at when you first started this process of how to be successful, how to have the happiness, how to have the fulfillment? And maybe that might give them some hope if they're in an area where they don't see any hope.
Well, I'm grateful today, but when I was young, I was brought up by, I had 4 foster families, and I had a mom, brought up by a single mom. And as a result, I ran the streets. I didn't have love, just trying to figure out life on my own. And as I said, I had foster parents. And then what happened is, as I got older, I started noticing that my life sucked, and I saw other people very successful. And I thought, well, what's the difference between them and, them and me? I said, they have, I have 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head, and so do they. Why are they successful, and why does my life suck? I need to figure this out. And as a result, I started seeking, like I found many teachers, Tony Robbins, many different speakers, and I just started, investing in that, in myself, and learning and reading books, and I tried a few of the things that they were teaching me, and I started getting results. And I thought, well, there's nothing wrong with me. I just don't have the right strategy because of the way I was brought up. So I just need to do total immersion and get my psychology right. Because there were some things I knew that I wanted to do, but I wasn't taking action. And so I feel that, when I started moving my feet and I knew my outcome, and the key is being grateful, not living in fear. Because when you live in fear, it puts the brakes on, and you're just, what happens is it puts the blinders on. You can't, you're not open. You're not seeing what else is going on around you. You're not being creative. You don't have other ideas. And so by knowing what my outcome was, I shifted my beliefs, my values, my rules, because those things that I learned from being in that kind of environment growing up, some things served me, yeah, but some did not. And as a result, I was more or less a byproduct of my environment. And it's never too late to have a childhood. I was able to shift my environment by reinvesting in myself and getting new psychologies and new tools. And then as a result, being able to go from being like a 7th grade educated house painter to working in, for Prudentials, selling securities, mutual funds and insurance. And I thought, holy, this is awesome, And so I went for it. And then I love the human development part of it. Tony Robbins and, the teachers that I was studying. And I thought, well, shoot, maybe I can go and work with them and help out because I love that. And then I can get more clients for my insurance. I thought, and then I got into the human development part and I thought, well, you know what? I love this so much. That's what I went into full on. And as a result today, I created a beautiful life where I wrote down I wanted to live on an exotic island, turquoise water, have a home on the beach where I could lay in bed and watch the sun come up out of the water in the morning. I wanted to set my life up because I saw everybody was working, and had no time for themselves, and they were just, going crazy. So I said, I need to set myself up in a way where I have balance, where I have time to I'm going to have kids. That was one of the things I wrote down. I wanted to have be married and have children, and I wanted to have time for them and for my wife. And so I designed my life around that. And as a result, today I'm just a kid that was from New Jersey, and just coming from the streets and now living on a beautiful island in Phuket, Thailand. I have a home on the beach. I have a few homes, but the one I live in, I lay in bed and I watch the sun come up out of the water in the morning. And when I open my shades in the morning, my wife's like, will you shut those shades? Because she doesn't like the bright sun. It comes in too strong for her. But as far as, and I have my beautiful wife, I have, 4 children here in Thailand, that we created, born, bred, and, 2 of them are actually, one of them is 21, one's 19, and I have a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old. My 2 oldest ones are married. They had a double wedding together. Wow. And I love it because my family all get together. Nobody fights. They all enjoy each other. They do things with each other. The kids had to vote in, they had to vote in, the partners of the ones that were getting married, and they all approved. And it's just, we created this family dynamic that creates a foundation with gratitude and, just having a joyful life. And then we happily achieve is what we do. So,
So it goes back to gratitude. Let me ask a question because I've seen a lot of these same mentors, Tony Robbins, Deepak Chopra, Jim Rohn, all these same guys, but it's very easy to say you put your outcome out there and if everything works out well, you'll get it. But maybe you can share with people what happens if you put your outcome, you design your plan, and it doesn't go exactly the way you want it. How do you deal with disappointment?
Well, certainly when you get hit a few times.
Can you share an example?
Yeah. When you get hit a few times, you get knocked off track, and then you have to get centered again. And so for me, it's like, okay, what's most important to me in life, and what's my outcome? Because when we look at life today, it's like, this is not a dry run. We don't get to go through this and then do it all over again. So let's figure out what we want to do and let's make it most important. So when I get knocked off track, sometimes I got to take a little break, rest, take a moment, get centered again, take a deep breath, and then think, about what's most important to me. What's my outcome, and why do I want it? What's my meaning behind it?
Can you share like an actual example, whether it's a relationship with your kids, with your wife, maybe it's a business partnership gone bad that people can relate to, and how you handled it?
Okay. Well, I think about my wife. You know, she was 99.9% everything I had written down that I wanted to, in her. Before I married her, I had to have that checklist done, and I was like, she was perfect for me. But then when you get together in the relationship, and now things start to show up because we're from different cultures, and when something happens, she goes into her brain and says, well, it means this, and then I go in my brain and I say, well, it means this. And then so we were, there was times when we would argue and like almost break up in the relationship. And I was like, well, what are we going to do here? So we had to really pull it back and sit and talk about, okay, I'm not a needy person. I married her because I love her, because I love myself first, and I wanted somebody to share that love with. And she married me because she loved herself, and she wanted somebody to share that love with. So we sat down and we talked about, okay, what are the things that I'm doing that, I meet your needs some way, but some ways I don't, and vice versa. And then because I love her, I want to meet her needs. So just a little quirky thing, like I said, hey, honey, say, I love you. And she never says, I love you back. And I'm like, that's something, it's important to me. And if you say that, that'll, that juices me. That makes me feel good, So these are, this brings the relationship back. But what I found is that the foundation, that what really made a difference, is that, we went to communicating with each other. You have to really make sure that you're in a situation where, you're open, and you look at the end result. You go in your heart and you're like, okay, how do I turn this around? So do I want to stay in a relationship or don't I? I want to stay in a relationship. It was my outcome. I wanted that. So we have a couple times, we get hit a few times. Okay, so what do we do? So we step it up, and we figure out, okay, so we started researching and going through all kinds of, trainings, and then, it's all about focus, I think, and knowing your outcome, where you want to be, and just coming back to that again. I think that's the shortest version of it.
Oh, I love that. I have another question for you because I have a daughter. She's 11. You have 4 kids in Phuket. And how do you keep them grounded? Because I think a lot of our audience would love to know how, as you get more successful, how do you not spoil your kids where they're only focused on the money or the material things? And how do you keep them grounded where they have that gratitude? What are some ideas you could share with us?
That's a good one. The kids, because as you know, you were a kid once, right?
Yes.
And your parents tell you what to do, and then what do? You turn around and you look at them and you're like, that's...
I know better. Yeah,
I know better, So, I've had that with my kids, and I tried tough love on them. I've tried consequences on them, and they want to do what they want to do. And so for me, what I did was I thought, you know what? Maybe they don't have to have the happiness that I have. Maybe they want to have happiness the way they want it. And they have to learn for themselves their mistakes. So what I did was I let them know, look, I love you. I'm here for you if you need me. And just let them live their own way, because I feel like if I'm not judging them, then I can just let go, and, they can just be, they can learn from their own lessons. And what I found out is that when I let go and I let them learn their own lessons, now they came close to me. Because they know that I love them, I care about them, I respect them as individuals. And so that's really worked well for me.
You were sharing a true story about how some of your kids didn't get along because of ages, and how you solved that. Because some are getting more attention, some are getting less attention. And I think a lot of our audience might have that same strategies where maybe the youngest kid gets more attention versus the oldest one. How did you handle that?
Well, I pulled the team together because I noticed there was strife and anger and fighting and hurt going on. And what I did was I pulled the team together, the whole family, and we sat down and we talked to our kids, and I already had a sense of what was going on. And I just told the kids, I said, listen, I said, I have the same love for all of you. I said, I don't love anybody more than anybody else. I said, you know, in this household, I love you all the same. There's no favoritism. I said, I know some of you longer because you've been here longer. I said, that's the difference. So what we did was we did some, I shared with them that, look, the first baby's born, mom and dad has to take care of the baby, okay? So we got to nurture it, we got to teach it. Second baby's born, guess what? Now we have to focus on the second baby. Third baby's born, we have to focus on the third one. We're still giving attention to the other ones, but not as much. And so we had our middle one, Alicia, she was feeling frustrated and anger. She was trying to force everybody to love her. And the older kids would pick on her because they sensed something was wrong, you know. And the youngest one didn't know. She was just young. And so we did a role reversal processes. We had the kids, you know, we took the older kids and put them in a position of the middle person and the youngest one. And we literally, my kids cried when they realized what they were doing to the middle one, picking on them. And we just helped them understand the dynamics of, you know, when you have multiple families, you know, kids have to be, when the kids are growing up, you have to take care, you know, have to focus on little ones. Doesn't mean we don't love you any less. It's just that they demand more, you know, more focus. So as I can tell you that as a result of that, my kids, I mean, they have the most amazing relationship with each other. I mean, it's very special. I can see that they do things together. You know, they take each other out for dinner and they go and do. You know, it's just amazing to see how they get along so good. Never ever do I see them fighting, arguing, any anger, any hurt. You know, and I teach them. I say, look, if you feel like something's hurting you or somebody, you've done outside of the family, and you know, just send them love. Just say, look, God, give me love for that person. You know, send me love so that, you know, I'm not feeling hatred, you know, and I'm not judging that person. So, but that really, you know, it's a big shift in our family. I mean, it really made a difference. And I can tell you that I have families compliment us all the time, and they're like, man, my kids are this and that, and then that gives me an opportunity to share with them, hey, well, you know, we did this, maybe you might want to try that, you know. So give them a little coaching on family relationships, because I've been through it, and you know, it's really helped our family. So
Thank you for that.
yeah.
How would you say your priorities have changed over the last 20 years? So maybe when you were 20, 30 years old, like myself, it was more focused on money, accumulating wealth. But as you get older, wiser, your priorities have shifted. What are your priorities now, and how does that make a difference in where you want to be in the next 30, 40 years?
Well, my priorities now, my priorities when I was young, let's start with that, was to feed myself, to feed my family. You know, how do I make money? And then that's what, you know, chasing after money. And then I started realizing that, okay, I got money, but where's the happiness, you know? So then I had to start focusing on that. And I found out that, you know, that there's a balance. You know, you have to make money and you have to be happy. You know, you just keep it together. They have to be together. And so I think that that's what I discovered, is that how can I do what I love and make money? How can I do what I love and make money? Or if I have vehicles that are making me money, okay, that would give me more than what I'm doing that I love, because I can use vehicles to make me money too. How can I get them going? And then what I do is I use that, the meaning behind it that drives it. So I know I'm doing that. Maybe it's not something that I love as much, but it gives me a nice income from it. And I don't have to do a lot. So, but you know, I just add the meaning in there. It's like, well, I have that because it's going to give me a more empowering life. You know, give me free time to be able to play with my kids. You know, allowed to travel the world, allowed to, you know, arrive in style. So, I think that helps a lot.
I saw you the other day talk about this process you call reframing or rebranding yourself, and where you worked with young people and you took some of their fears and reframed them. Then you took some people maybe in their 60s and 70s and reframed it. Can you share with our audience about how reframing is important, and maybe give some examples of some of these young versus somebody who's maybe a little older, how they can use that for their advantage?
First thing that comes to my mind is when we're in Patang and we were having a little round table, and one of our friends there at the table said, "Oh, he says, I'm getting too old." And I said, "Too old?" I said, "You need to reframe that." I said, "Because the older you get, the better you get." I said,
experience.
"And the wiser you become, and you can do more by being wiser than you can ever by just pushing as a young man, and not having the wisdom." I said, "So you need to change that around." And so that's a good example of it, of a reframe. Some people say, there's, there's what else?
Well, what if I'm
There's so
too
many-
young? What if I don't have the experience? How would you reframe that one?
That's a big one too, because a lot of people feel like they're too young and they can't make things happen because they don't have the experience. But youth is power. They have amazing energy. They can run circles around some people, because they have that energy. So they can, they have stamina. And so they can change it around and just make it into an empower meaning like that.
Here's another one. What if I don't understand? Most of our community, we talk about cryptocurrency, we talk about blockchain, and maybe somebody who didn't grow up with that, like myself, how could I reframe that to make it empowering? Instead of saying, I don't understand this technology, how could I reframe it?
I think that you can reframe that.
One of the things I got from you was, I don't say I'm dumb or I'm stupid, I'm unfamiliar with it. It's just like when I came to visit you in Phuket, I might not know the directions the first time, but if I come and visit your house 4 or 5 times, I'll start to see landmarks and I'll be more familiar with the area. Just like any new type of cryptocurrency, place and trades, I'm not dumb, I'm just unfamiliar with it. We have a lot of students, different backgrounds, and they're coming to join us to learn blockchain, cryptocurrency, other new investment tools. What would you say to them if they say, I'm too old for this, I can't figure this out?
I would tell them that, if you're confused, that means you're about ready to learn something. And it takes a bit of time, but you have to stay in there. First you're something new, you're not aware of it. Hello, are you new here? The simplest thing is riding a bicycle, right? It's like you see everybody else doing it and you want it. It's like, I want to be like them. I want to be with them. I want to go play and I want to make money and I want to ride bikes, and you don't know how to balance yet. And you're like, so you get up on there and you start it. You're like, well, I'm going to do it anyway. And then you fall down and you skin your knee. But what do? Do you lay there? Yeah, for a minute or two, and then you go, but my friends are playing. They're making money. I want to do it too. So they get back on the bike and they try it again and they get a little farther this time and then they fall down again. And eventually, they're riding with their friends, And so you can always, and I think that, you get help from your parents. They're going to help you. So what do? You go ask your coaches. You go ask the people around you that are in your environment. People that are successful. Pick their brains. Get some ideas from them. Create values for them. And they'll be willing to help you. And then, pretty soon you'll be riding that bike, just having fun with all your friends, and you won't have to worry about your bank account anymore.
Excellent. So Craig, this past weekend you're with 30,000 people. They're all going through a challenge to become more successful, more fulfilled. What would you say if you could pick out the top 2 indicators of success? What would you say that two or three of the top indicators for success would be? Is it passion? Is it about taking action? Is it knowledge? What would you say if you could had a success strategy formula and said these people have these 2 or 3 attitudes or traits, or could develop these attitudes or traits, it'll help them be more successful?
I think what helps people be most successful, number 1, they have to know their outcome. Number 2 is the meaning why. And then number 3, they must take action. So they're the 3 things that are most important.
So they have to know their outcome, they have to know the reason why, and they got to take action.
Right. And the only reason why people don't succeed is because the number one need is certainty. They want to feel safe. They want to feel secure. They're worried about what people are going to think about them. What are my parents going to say? What if I fail? What if I lose it all? And so that's what sabotages it. So by them shifting their psychology and just taking action, again, it's okay to make mistakes. You've got to just expect it. It's part of the game. If you're going to ride a bike, you got to expect to fall down. It's just going to happen until you learn how to balance it. But you can shortcut the process. You don't have to do it on your own. You get with a team of people that know what they're doing. You get the proper advice, and pretty soon you're here. And then the trajectory over a period of time, you go to a whole new level in your life. You wake up one day and go, "Oh my God, look how my life has changed." So I think that's spot on there.
Wow. Did you guys get so much? Again, if you're not taking notes, pull out that pen and paper, because part 2, we're actually going to go over some exercises with Craig and exactly how do you change your state? How do you go from something unresourceful to something resourceful to overcome any obstacle? And again, before we begin, I want you to like, subscribe, and forward our programs to your friends and family. And again, like Modern Wealth SG, and we'll see you soon. So Craig, one of the things I've heard of is, share with us maybe a story of how in the beginning because you started with these technologies and tools back when you were, what, 18, 19, 20 years old?
Actually, I was in my 30s.
In your 30s,
Yeah.
the 30s.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
And so you're never too young or never too old to learn these technologies. And maybe give a specific example how you started to apply this. I remember you told us how you were a house painter, and then you went into the insurance game. That's a big leap of house painter. Because do you have to take tests? Did you have to get licensed and certified like we do in Asia to be an insurance agent?
Yes. That's I'll share with you a cool story. This is what I call anchoring. One thing that I learned, by the way. What happened was I was, house painting. I was a foreman. I had a, company truck and credit card. I ran a few crews, but I also had to get in there and work with them. And I just wasn't happy. I mean, I like taking an ugly house and making it look beautiful. That was the meaning that drove me, that allowed me to stay there. But my friends were like, "Craig, you're just so, you're amazing. I could see that in you. Why don't you come and, work for Prudential Insurance?" And I thought, and he's like, he believed in me, and he saw in me that there was a lot of potential. And it was my friend Mike Getz. And I thought, wow, okay, you know what? Let me think about that. And then right away I thought, oh yeah, but I don't have a lot of education. And then again, here we go now, because I'm in seminars and I'm learning. That's why these opportunities are starting to come to me, because I'm starting to develop myself. And as you start to shift your focus, things start to show up. It's like antennas, and you start noticing them. And so my friend said, why don't you go over and meet with the boss there? So I went over and I sat down with him, and he did an interview with me. And he goes, "We love who you are." They said, "We'd hire you in a minute." He said, "But you got to pass all these tests. You have to pass the securities test and, and property and casualty and, all these tests." And I thought, okay, let me take that in. And I had a great interview, and I'm thinking, okay, what can I do? It's like, all right, well, I have to know my outcome. All right, I know why I want to do it. I want to get out of being a painter because I want to be more successful. I want to make more money. I need to know my outcome. Okay, so I know my outcome. And then I thought, but I got to pass these tests. I wasn't good in school because of being brought up by a single mother. She wasn't there for me. I had nobody watching me, nobody to teach me and help me, and it was a struggle. I never had I tried to pay attention in school. I really did, but I was a kid that wasn't emotionally fit at the time because of the way I was been brought up. But I said, okay, the past doesn't equal the future. I've got to, let me at least go for it, And so what I did was I remembered this process that I learned called anchoring. And I thought, okay, now I'm going to be in school taking a test, and I would be embarrassed in front of everybody. I can't stand up and like change my state and like stretch out and make some noises or dance.
Can you share what anchoring is now
to
for the
change my
audience?
state? Yeah, sure. Anchoring is you're doing something unique at the peak and then you do something. So I'm gonna actually show you what I did. So what I did was I would I would I would see, feel, and hear myself passing the test. I would, yay! I would just celebrate as if I did it. And then what I did was I would take the crack in my knuckle here and I would stick my finger there and press on it. And then I would see, feel, and hear myself passing the test. And then I would push myself in the knuckle there. And I kept doing that repeatedly over and over and over. And what it did was all I had to do, because the reason why I did it is because I knew that when I would be taking the test and I would feel a little embarrassed because I would be having a hard time. So I needed to keep myself in a state where I was, I was celebrating and winning and making it happen.
So you created this feeling. It's almost like a song, right? I have some songs that put me in a quiet, relaxed mode, and I have some songs that kind of get me, pumped up.
Well, and not what happens is also exactly right.
Yeah.
And the idea is that when you hear that song, like how many of you ever had a song that you have from your childhood that was one of your favorite songs? As soon as it comes on, it brings you back to that time in your life. So I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I would hear "Under the Boardwalk We'll Be," and that was, I love the ocean. I'm an ocean kid, and it would bring me right back there. It just bring me these wonderful feelings. So I thought, okay, I need to use this technology so that while I'm taking the test, if I get myself in a tizzy or I get worried, I can pull myself out of it. So all I had to do is press my knuckle and it'll bring me back to that celebration and I'll pass. So it's for 2 weeks. I mean, and I go in the room, for my first day, and everybody, these are all college educated guys who are in suits, and, I go into my blue jeans and my white shirt, and I'm just like, oh, no problem, I'm gonna pass this. I'm just having I know my outcome, I know my reasons why. And so I study, and the only studying habits, I didn't have studying skills to learn how to memorize things. I just knew that you just kept reading it and then read it again. And I would wake up in the morning with anxiety and I would read it, and the test information. And at lunchtime when we had a break, because I had to go to school for 2 weeks straight, and every spare minute, when I would get home, I would study. I was traveling like an hour each way, and I even stayed in a Roach Coach hotel. I went in. I remember going in there, and the room smelled, and I was like, I opened up the window, and I just left the screen there, and I went out to get something to eat, and I came back, and somebody had taken my leather jacket, and I was like, oh man. So okay, don't worry about it. I just made sure I locked the windows and stuff. So I studied for 2 weeks straight. I gave it my all, and I still, my anchor, I had it. I'm going to pass this test. I know my outcome. And then the day came for the test. And so I started taking the test, and then I'm taking it, and then I start noticing people leaving the room. They're finishing. And another one would leave the room.
Is this like a written essay, or is this multiple choice?
This is, you have to do, there was multiple choice, and you had to write some stuff in too. It was on law. You had to understand law, and so it was a lot of work in this test. And what happened was, all the people started leaving. Long story short, I was the last person in the room. And the proctor who was giving me the test, he says, Craig, he says, listen, we're running out of time. He says, I've got to get some lunch. He says, look, he says, I'm going to go get some lunch. He says, and when you just finish up that test, and he says, when you're done, give it to the girl at the window there, and she'll check it for you. And I was like, okay, I'll get my anchor. Okay, I'm fine. And people started coming back from lunch, and I'm still doing my test, and I'm starting to feel a little embarrassed. I'm like, nope, I'm going to pass this test. I'm going to pass it. So I'm just like, I'm giving it my all. Finally, I finished the test, and I take it to the girl in the window. She grades my test. She says, Mr. Richards, she says, you passed your test, and I was on cloud 2009. Forget about cloud 9. I was on 2009 because I thought, oh my God, I'm going to get to leave being a house painter. I'm going to be somebody now. I'm going to put on a nice suit and help people transform their lives in the finance and insurance business. And I was so excited. I went home and I was like telling everybody, and I can't wait for this. And then the owner of the school called me, and she said, Craig, she says, we have a problem. And so what do you think the problem was?
I don't know.
Take a guess.
There's something wrong with the test?
That's right, exactly. She said, the girl who checked your test made a mistake.
Ugh.
She said, you didn't really pass.
Oh.
She said, but because we passed you, we're going to let it stand. Now, this was the pre-test in order for me to be able to go and take the state exams.
Oh, wow.
So she said, Craig, you study your ass off and you go and ace those exams. And I did that. I studied and I went and I took the exam, and guess what?
You passed.
No, I failed.
Really?
I failed the test. And I was like, okay, I know my outcome. Change my approach. Something. All right. What can I do different this time? All right. I know. Oh, I know. My friend said, the first thing that comes to your mind is usually the right thing. So you should always trust that. I thought, okay. So I paid my money again. I had to wait for 2 days. So I studied like crazy. I took the test again, and I know the first thing came to mind. Okay, trust that one. And then the ones I wasn't sure of, I went back and checked them, and then finally I turned it in, and I waited, and I was like, holding on, and I passed. I got a 73, needed a 70.
Nice.
So from that day, I went into Prudential, and I got the job, and I didn't have all these different skills, but because I was moving my feet and because I was taking action, I had, just people can feel my energy, who I was, and I just had an amazing heart, and I started like, well, hey, do you know how to do this? And I created friends, and they started, well, here, we'll help you, and then what ended up happening is that year I became like Rookie of the Year for Prudential. They gave me an award. They sent me to Florida, paid for everything. And gave me, it's just amazing, and from that day forward, it just kept building, and I made all these residuals, and then I thought, okay, I went with another company, Guardian, another upgrade, because they did more of a comprehensive financial system, and what I would do is I would say, okay, I didn't know how to do all the systems they were using, so I would say, hey, I said, I'll give you 50% of my income. Take me, I got the client, you do the sale, I'm gonna watch you, and I would watch them. And I would like take notes, and I would pay attention, mental notes. I would write notes down, and eventually I got so good that I could do it by myself. I didn't need them anymore, and I was always good with people. Communicating and having fun with people, and learning from them and attracting clients and so forth. But I love that, and I can tell you that my anchoring had a big difference to it, but also I believe you're like, na 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 na. It's like, whoa, how did this happen? Because really I could have said, oh, I don't have the education, I don't know what to do, and not do anything. But I didn't. I moved my feet because I knew my outcome, I knew the reason why I wanted it, and it's called leverage. You have enough leverage. It just kind of launched me away from where I wanted to be in a whole new place, and so you can use that anywhere in your life.
Awesome. So Craig, let me ask you, you've been around some of the most experts in the world, peak performer guys like Deepak Chopra, Tony Robbins, T.R. Becker, all these amazing guys who transform millions of people's lives. What's one thing that maybe when you first heard it, you didn't believe? And then now it's like the total transformation. You fully believe in that.
Well, I could tell you that when I went into seminars, he would have people jumping up and down and playing music and getting people all emotional. And I was like, I was used to being illogical and didn't get my emotions involved. And I thought that was a bunch of hype just to get you excited to try to sell you a product or something. But what I found out is that when you're in an energy state, when you're in we call it a peak state, where you're feeling alive and happy, and you're like, imagine your favorite football team just winning, and you're like, yeah, you feel so good, right? And while you're doing that, if you're learning something, that tends to attract it and tends to lock it in. So in other words, you're having fun and learning. And so what it does is it connects it to your body, and you get it in your body.
It's almost like a child. That's how a child learns. Is my daughter, she learns to have fun and she learns.
Exactly. So that's something I didn't used to agree with, but now, are you kidding me? It's like, if you're not in a peak state, then you're not going to be resourceful. It's better to be in a peak state because, you learn more, you retain it. They actually have done studies, Harvard University has done studies where it increases all the chemicals in your body and decreases stress and just helps you to feel, and you're more resourceful. You can get more done. You can make more things happen, So, yeah, that's one thing. I used to think that was hype, but now you got to have it.
So, Craig, you talk about state, how state is very important, how to get yourself in a peak state. Can you maybe give an example to the audience of what they could do right now to get in a peak state?
Okay.
And
Just think about your favorite football team, okay?
Okay.
And they just won the World Series in football.
Exciting.
How do you usually react? What do people do? They go,
jump, clap,
yeah, they won, they won.
Yeah.
And you weren't even playing, but you're so excited for them, right?
Yep.
And that puts you into a state of euphoric, of happiness, of joy. You're happy, okay? And so that's called a state. But we also have unresourceful states that we use. So if I were to give you, let's say, $100,000 right now, Louis, and you were to show me what somebody looks like that's depressed, I'll bet you could do that. How do people use their body when they're depressed?
Oh, it's down. They're not breathing much.
And where do they put their head?
Down, yes.
And what are they focusing on?
Things that go wrong, negativity.
And what are they saying to themselves?
Oh, I can't believe it. It's all negative kind of stuff.
Okay, so now that you get your 100,000 now.
Yeah.
You did it. Yeah, so that's also a state. That's an unresourceful state. And when you're in an unresourceful state, obviously you're not going to be resourceful, right? So you want to be able to control your states. So what I want you to do is go back into an unresourceful state. Okay. You put your head down, focus on everything bad. You said shoulders down, heads down, and you're feeling unresourceful, right? But what I want you to do now is I want you to snap out of it, and I want you to raise your hands, and just like your football team won. Yay, yay, yay. That's right. Yes. Now go back into depression. Head down, shoulder breathe shallow, focus. So everything's poor. See everything in black and white.
Yes.
Oh, poor. Now snap out of it again.
There we go. Yes.
Yes. Your favorite football team. See it, feel it, magnify it. Take it to another level, even stronger, stronger. That's it. So how does that make you feel?
Much better. More energetic.
So because you just went from state to state, we just proven that you can change in a heartbeat. It doesn't take much. It's how you use your body affects how you feel. It's physiology first. So if you put your shoulders back, you put your head up, you put a smile on your face, go ahead and do that.
Okay, got it.
And now try to be depressed with your shoulders up. Can you be depressed?
No,
you can't.
No.
Because your neurology is being affected by how you feel. So this is why it's important to be able to control your state, because let's say something goes wrong for you, you're doing a deal, business deal, you lose on something, and you're like, okay, right away, put your shoulders up, head up, and then you'll be in a resourceful state. And then you'll say, okay, how can I handle this now? So.
Love that.
Yeah,
Good job,
yeah.
good job.
Well, actually, I even have an example of a friend of mine. He called me the other day. Now, this is a guy who does training all over. He works in Poland. He's like the Tony Robbins in Poland. And I always coach him. He always looks to me for advice. And he called me. He goes, Craig, I'm depressed. I said, what? He goes, the whole job is ruined. It's ruined, Craig. And I said, what are you talking about? I said, 2 weeks ago, you told me that it was perfect. Everything was going good because you're watching the job all along the way. He's redesigning a bunch of stuff on his house. And so then he says to me, yeah, but it's ruined, Craig. I said, well, wait a minute. I said, you're focusing the wrong way. I said, first of all, put your shoulders back, put your head up. I said, take a deep breath. And then he did that. And I said, now, do you remember 2 weeks ago you told me the projects were going right? So tell me what went right. And he started, they laid the concrete properly. They put the form on top properly. And he started telling me. And as he was telling me, he started making a shift in his energy and his feelings. And I said, so really, you're using your physiology in the wrong way. I said, and your focus and what you're saying to yourself. And so he goes, thank you, Craig. He says, I'm so glad I called you. He says, and so then the next one, his wife sends me a message and says, oh, Craig, Chris got resourceful and found a solution. So the whole job is saved. And so now we have what we call Friday night movie nights, where we go, for Friday night, we go swimming first in the pool. Then we have dinner. We all sit down and all our wives bring food. And we all just sit around and enjoy each other. And then we watch a movie. Well, we get in the pool and I swim up, and Chris is standing there talking to a couple of my other friends. He was saying, oh, Craig, he says, he's so awesome. He says, I can always count on him. He says, I called him and he helped me to make a shift in my focus. The way I was using my brain, the way I was using my body. And, he says, that's why he's my number one coach, So I was like, Chris, I said, thank you. For you, I always take care of you. Don't worry. But, it's just a really amazing experience. Just, that's what it's all about, and you can help others, because I'm not only sharing this information, to help him, but I want him to learn it, and then he can help other people and use it. You know what I mean? So that's what it's all about. You have to pay it forward too, and make the world a better place. So that's what it's all about. So you can be happy. If you lose, something's going wrong, guess what? That's the time you want to use your physiology, and you can stay happy, and you don't have to get upset about it. And then you'll be more resourceful. Okay, how can we turn it around? How can we do a better trade? How can, this way you don't have to go backwards. Excellent. So, yep, that's awesome.
Wow, are you guys excited like me? Did you guys take a lot of notes? Craig, how did they get a hold of you?
I'm on Facebook.com. You can get me there.
Facebook.com. Craig Richards at Facebook.com. And more importantly, please like, subscribe, and comment below. I want you to comment 2 things that you learned from Craig today. 2 things, and maybe Craig will pick out a winner, or we'll pick out a winner to give you a little gift. Again, like, subscribe, comment below. Follow us on Modern Wealth SG. We'll see you on the other side.